Welcome everybody to the afternoon session. We're going to do a case study today about Agora.io powering Encore, or Clap for Encore. My name is Brad Altfest. I've actually been a longtime media and entertainment professional. I originally cut my teeth in the special effects and animation universe. I then moved on to Sony Pictures, where I helped them create their DVD encoding process. Ultimately, I became CTO of a small cable TV network called Plum TV. Over the last 12 years or so, I've moved more on to product and sales, and these days, I'm the managing director of media and entertainment at Agora.io. Nice to meet you all, everybody, and hope you all had a great lunch.
All right, thanks, Brad, and thanks to all of you for coming out here. I'm Yev, CTO of Encore. A little bit about my background. I started in aerospace at Lockheed Martin. I wrote software for scientific satellites, mostly around their optics. I had a chance to work on the James Webb Space Telescope, which finally got into orbit. Super excited for the first images to come back from that. Then after Lockheed, I went to start my own consulting firm, got some developers, designers, product managers, and we would just go client to client, building out web apps and mobile apps. Did that for a few years, and then I started T4 with a friend. T4 is a market research aggregator. So we would take reports from Gartner, Forrester, IDC. We would put them all in one place and index them in a way that made it really easy to find for consultants and analysts. It was at T4 that I met the CEO of Encore, John Gray. He was an early advisor for us. So T4 was going well. We were one of the TechCrunch Battlefield companies in 2019, but ultimately we ended up pivoting that to a services company. So now it's a boutique consulting firm, and as that transition was happening, Encore was just starting up. So John brought me in to lead the tech efforts there. On the side, I make music and I DJ, so as soon as I had this opportunity to combine my two passions, music and tech, I had to jump right in, and I've been at Encore for almost 2 years now.
Alrighty. Well, with that, just to give everybody a sense of the format of what we're going to do today, we're going to talk initially about Agora.io, what our platform does, what our product helps power. Then we're going to get into the specific case study about Encore, and then hopefully we'll have a little time at the end for a bit of an interactive Q&A session. And away we go. So Agora is the global leader of real-time interactive engagement. We're basically a platform as a service. We were founded in 2013. We're very engineering-driven. Almost 70% of our staff are R&D or product. And we've had 110% year-over-year growth of R&D and engineers. We're currently in over 6,500 registered applications today worldwide. That means both the iTunes and the Play Store. We have a community of almost 400,000 developers that have worked with integrating our SDKs into all the different platforms that we play in, which for the record include iOS, Android, web, both desktop and mobile, as well as Internet of Things, and also the ability to do transformation in the cloud via both Windows as well as Linux. We are currently publicly traded under the call letters API on the NASDAQ. Oops, I'm going the wrong direction. There we go. Just to give you folks a sense of what the platform actually powers, there's core services that we provide, which include things like a voice or video call. We also have real-time messaging, and so by that what we mean, of course, is a text-driven chat. But the things that we're really going to focus on today, and that I think is really a strategic focus for our organization in general, is what we call live interactive audio streaming and live interactive video streaming. And of course, we also have the ability to record the experience and create on-demand assets in real time. Oh, keep hitting the wrong button. Sorry, folks. We have global coverage. We're available in over 200 countries worldwide. In fact, what I would say is because we're both dual headquartered here in the United States as well as in China, we've had a lot of success at handling scale. That means both million-plus concurrency. That also means being able to handle, let's say, variegated last-mile delivery scenarios. We also say that we're not just a technology provider, but also the crowdsourced best practices of real-time engagement. Just to give you a few highlights, we have something called the double talk detector. So imagine you're in a clubhouse-like environment, social audio room, a lot of people that want to speak about a topic they're very energized about. How do you make sure that that's a good user experience? How do you make sure people are not all clamoring to speak and talking over each other? Well, on the back end, we have an AI engine that's trained in understanding who's the primary speaker and understanding when there's a natural break in the conversation, being able to allow somebody else to interject and have a more positive user experience. Just to talk real quick about the 3 layers of technology of the platform. Number 1, at our core, we are a software-defined network, or what we like to call a software-defined real-time network. The second layer, of course, is the delivery mechanism itself, which would be WebRTC, and of course with MPEG-4 under the hood for both audio and video, all of which we have optimized specifically around real-time engagement because, look, those are standards that have been around for a while, and WebRTC was originally meant for text chat, and MPEG-4 was not originally envisioned as a real-time specification. And then the final layer of the technology on top of those 2 things are, of course, the SDKs themselves. And that allows for easy integration of the product into your platform. I would say, ironically, the integration of the SDK is easy. I think the visualization of the user interface is really the heavy lifting for a majority of our clients. We are, of course, compliant with all the usual security standards and protocols that you would expect. We're SOC 2 compliant. We have a number of ISO certifications. And of course, we also can do things like token exchange and encryption. For our customers that are in the medical space, we're HIPAA compliant. For our customers that have end viewers in Europe, we're GDPR compliant. Basically, we make sure that your content is not only real time, but also secure. And finally, our sizzle reel.
All right, awesome sizzle reel. So now let's take a quick look at Encore, and we'll kick off with another sizzle reel just so everyone gets a preview of what Encore is all about, and then we'll take a deeper dive into it.
Every artist dreams of making it big, but in reality, artists are struggling to make a living, chasing followers and likes on social, hoping to make pennies on streams. We're here to change that. Encore Studio is the live performance app that allows artists to make real money, 1 10-cent clap at a time. Encore gives artists the tools to tell their story, release new music, and host conversations and experiences with their community. Whether you have 100 fans or 1 million, Encore is made for you.
All right, Battle of the Sizzle Reels. And shout out to Dom for putting that video together. So what is Encore? Encore is a creator platform focused around interactive live shows. One of our core beliefs is the future of live streaming has to be interactive. On our platform, artists directly monetize their audience. You all know on streaming providers, it's impossible to make a living unless you're in the top tier of artists. But with us, even if you have a few thousand fans, if they're really passionate and engaged, you can do really well. We started out in hip hop, but we're exploring and experimenting with other genres and formats. We have 3 founders, John, Ian, and Scott, AKA Kid Cudi. So John, the CEO, he's a serial tech entrepreneur. He sold his last company to Google a few years ago, and that was in the big data space. Next up, we have Ian Edelman. He is a Hollywood veteran, and if you've ever seen the show How to Make It in America on HBO, he's one of the creators, writers, and producers of it. And that's actually how he met Scott. Kid Cudi had a role on How to Make It in America back in the day, so their relationship goes way back. And then, yeah, Kid Cudi needs no introduction, multi-award winning, multi-Grammy winning artist. It's been an amazing journey working with these 3 and the rest of the team. So the Encore ecosystem has 2 apps. They're in the app stores today if you want to go out and download them. First, we have the Encore app, and this is the general consumer app used for watching shows, interacting with artists, chatting. And a big focus for us is having high-quality audio. At the end of the day, this is a music app, and if you look at other live streaming providers, you can tell they've definitely skimped on that. And thanks to Agora, as soon as you get on Encore, you can hear the difference right away. Then we have the Studio app, and you can think of this as a full AR studio in your pocket. All you need is an iPhone or iPad. You don't even need a green screen, and you can start creating these immersive 3D stages. You can get your own assets in there, whether it's images, videos, whatever. And this is also the portal that artists use to create and manage their shows, and when they're ready to broadcast, this is where they go live. For a lot of the interactive features that we have, low latency is a must. And the way we built it out, and with Agora, we're able to get screen-to-screen latency of way less than a second, even with the AR and all the world tracking happening. These are a few of the bigger artists that we've had on the platform. Kid Cudi in the middle, of course, Trippie Redd, Kyle on the right, Bay Area rap legend Too Short. And then this Thursday, we have Oliver Tree coming up. So yeah, he's super creative if you can't tell by his picture. So grab the app, check it out. It'll be a fun show. Everything on Encore runs on claps. So 1 clap is 10 cents, and they're obtained through in-app purchases. So for someone to watch a show on Encore, it's 1 clap. To DM an artist, it costs a few claps. To chat in a show, it costs a clap. And if there's a survey going on, it costs claps to vote. Every show has a leaderboard, and what we've seen with repeat artists is between the leaderboard and the show chat, we get these artist communities created within Encore. So all the users, all the really big fans start recognizing each other. The banter gets hilarious, and they start mentioning Encore outside of our ecosystem, which is always a good sign. And our shows, so we center everything around short shows. The reality is no one wants to sit with their cell phone like this for an hour or 90 minutes trying to get through a live stream. That's just not realistic. But with that, we try to pack in a few interactivity features. And the 2 I want to highlight here are Backstage Pass and Polls. We'll take a deeper dive later, but on the left screenshot here is an example of Backstage Pass. An artist can bring up a fan from the crowd, and they can have a one-on-one chat with them. So here we have Kyle chatting with one of his fans, and there's 2 other users in line, and everyone gets to watch this interaction and this magic unfold. So that's my personal favorite feature. And then on the right, we have polls. And you can think of this as if an artist wants to ask a question like, hey, what song do you want me to play next? Or do you like these red shoes or these green shoes? Whatever it is, it gives the fans a chance to interact with the artist. The artist can get instant feedback. And that one's actually been a favorite of the communities online.
Well, thank you for all of that. So Yev, I have to tell you, man, there are so many cool things about your product. I remember when I came by to your studio that day and you were showing me just the photorealism of what you were able to do with your Unity integration. It blew me away. I love the implications about your app as far as bringing fans and their, media idols together. But, of all the cool things in the application, the thing that I was hoping to focus on first is the monetization model itself. Yeah. So, I think what's interesting to me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, we're really talking about the creator economy here in a way. So, can you talk to us a little bit more about, where did the idea for the clapping come from, and how are some of the different ways that you're using it?
Yeah. So the idea of clapping is really, we want to move away from the model that streaming providers have, where there's, for each quarter, there's a common pool of money, and then based on how many streams each artist received, that's the slice of the pie that you get. And obviously, unless you're a superstar, like you're going to get a few pennies maybe. So that's not a really good model, and it also doesn't reflect the people that have super energetic fans. And around Christmas time, obviously, like all the Christmas songs are going to dominate because that's what people are listening to. So that's why we wanted to go to a more direct model, and there are a few other creator economy apps that went in this direction. As far as what we do with it, so there's an 80-20 split, 80% going to the artist with these claps, and again, that's what powers all the interactions for the show. And to give an example, Kid Cudi, he received 1.4 million claps for a 20 or 25-minute performance. Everyone was super fired up to see him, and especially for a chance to chat. Like, I remember we brought this girl up. She got second place, and as soon as she saw herself up there, and Kid Cudi was hearing her, she like burst out in tears. So it was a crazy moment. But even for smaller artists, we have this artist DC the Dawn, and he doesn't have a massive fan base, but like they're rabid. They're so energetic, and they love everything that he does. So even for him, he's done shows where he walks away with 50,000 claps, and that's a really big deal, and it lets him focus more on creating music and performing versus making frivolous videos for social media.
So then basically what you're saying is for these little 10-cent microtransactions that I, as the viewer, may engage in, you're actually generating hundreds of thousands of dollars for your performances.
Absolutely,
wow.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, our goal, like, we want artists to be able to make a living off of this, and I think getting that directly with your fans is the best avenue.
Well, if you don't mind, I'd love to shift our focus a little bit to, well, what is it that the folks are clapping for? And in particular, the concept of that backstage pass, I find that really fascinating. Can you share a little bit more with us about that?
Yeah. So, every single fan wants to chat with the artist that they love, and the way that we've been using the leaderboard and backstage pass is, if you're one of the top 3 clappers or top 5 clappers, we'll go ahead and invite you up, and that's a really big driver for getting people to get to the top. So we don't even have to do a giveaway. It's just, hey, let me chat with with this artist for a minute or 30 seconds, and that makes everyone's day.
I mean, I would rather have that than just a signed T-shirt or something, right?
Absolutely.
That'd be cool,
That's what, the fan's never going to forget that. But even for the artist, if they see someone that's so passionate about music that they made, that's just going to motivate them to keep working harder and keep doing it. So the more of those moments that we can create, the better that we're doing. Right on.
Now, I know one of the other things you're doing in the application is things like polling and voting. Could you describe a little bit about how that works?
Yeah. The most common use for this is actually through the progression of a song. So a lot of times an artist will go, they have a brand new premiere, they'll do that song first, and then they're like, okay, what classic should I play next? And they'll have 2 or 3 options lined up. And here it gives a way for fans to direct and control the direction of the show. And that's not an opportunity that you get on all the other apps. And we went to a Twitter space right after the Cudi performance, and this is the one feature that everyone was chatting about. They're like, oh, I feel like I actually got to participate and be involved in the production of the show. We had one artist, Sui. He used polls and backstage pass in a really unique way, almost like a battle format. So he had all his fans send him music, and then during the show on Encore, he would go and he'd play someone's song. He would bring them up on backstage pass, so you can see that person sing along. Then he'd play another song, bring that other person up, and everyone would vote. Okay, who do you like better, first person or second person? And then it just became like this March Madness brackets. And we were able to do a whole prize based off of that.
Right on. Wow, that's all pretty amazing. So I guess, what would you say to critics that think that you're trying to replace the live performance?
I would say this is in no way trying to replace the live performance. you're not going to be able to get the same energy and the same environment that you get at a real-life concert than you get from looking at a phone screen. But that being said, that should not be a crutch for the experience that you get on the app or on the platform. The way we try to look at it is, okay, because we are doing this through the phone, what are all the cool new things that are possible now that aren't possible? So it's a different experience, and these are things that can and should exist in parallel with each other. So things like surveys or Backstage Pass, that's not necessarily possible or accessible in a real-life concert. And with us, whenever we try to come up with new features, that's where our head's at. We're not competing with live shows.
Right on. Well, final question, and then we'll open it up to you folks to ask some questions. Looking down the road with the new types of experiences that real-time is enabling, what do you see coming soon to a theater near you?
Yeah, there's 2 points I can make here. So the first one, we talked about the concept of a clap leaderboard, and that has fans competing against one another to get to the top. One of the ways that we've been trying to rethink it is, how can we have something where fans actually work together and it's like, oh, I got to get 10 more friends in here so we can all reach this common goal. A feature we'll be launching pretty soon is clap goals, and artists have already been doing this informally on our platform. They'll say, all right, you're going to hear a brand new song that no one's ever heard if we get to 50,000 claps, something like that, and we're just going to productize and formalize that in the app. Besides from that, we have this unique opportunity. We have all this data coming in, and we can actually pipe in data into the AR world. So right now, we're going through product and creative exercise of what can we do with that data. Some of the things are, okay, we can get a video wall behind the artist of just a bunch of fans' video streams that are listening to the show, and you can see them dancing to it, hanging out to it in real time. We can also take things like how many claps there are, how quickly are they coming in, or the poll results, and do some really cool 3D animation, place it in 3D space. So those are a couple things that we're exploring right now.
I love the fan wall concept so much because it just really speaks to this idea of immersion, where it isn't even just that we're a virtual audience that's limited to being in this little virtual space together, but you're actually projecting them into the live performance venue. I'll go here. I think when we're talking about the metaverse, what we're really talking about is where you have a seamless integration between the virtual and the real, and are able to do it in real time. And I think that this is really where we are now. So anyway, with that, I'm going to stop pontificating. Folks out in the audience, do you have any questions for either of us, either about Agora the platform or Encore the application?
Got it. So the question was, where do we see NFTs in relation to our platform? And for us, we see NFTs as assets you can upload. We haven't formalized we have proof of ownership and that entire area, but it's really a very short leap to get there from importing custom assets. So right now, you're right. It is all based on demand. Like, there's been interest, but we haven't had a large group of artists say, hey, we really need this in here for us to use the app. So it's all demand-based, but it's a short leap to get there.
And one way that I think we've seen NFTs kind of intersect with our own customer base is the idea that could be the new model for the download to own license, right? Your NFT is your on-demand asset after you were participating in the live real-time event. Anybody else? Oh, yes. Absolutely, and I appreciate that question. So I would say, number one, delivering content is kind of a done thing, and it has been for a while, and it's still a pretty steep lift to do that. So being able to both improve quality and also to normalize latency, I think, is like the big secret sauce that we really bring into the world. And so to look at an application like Encore, where they're really taking that a step further And not only are they both doing what I suggested, mixing the virtual and the actual, they have this incredible virtual soundstage, and I'll let him speak about that and the Unity plugin in a second. They're then able to further capitalize on that predictable latency by then enabling this social interaction that's really only possible because we can have this real-time chat. Do you want to speak a little bit about the Unity component?
Absolutely. I think one of the coolest things that people have a hard time believing is when you see our sets, when you see these AR stages that people perform, and it's like, oh, there's no way this is real time. There's no way you're on your iPad or your iPhone, right? But then you do that backstage pass, like on the screenshot here, Kyle's on a couch, but we've done it where the artist is just like hanging out in this AR world. There's no latency, and without Agora, that really wouldn't be possible.
And one thing I'll say, we do have a Unity integration, but actually these guys went ahead and they so wanted to pull apart and put the whole thing back together again. They actually did their own, which I think speaks to his technology background as a rocket.
Oh yeah, we've had to do a little bit of magic between iOS and Unity, but that's all I'll say on that.
We still have time for at least one more question. Yes?
Got it. So the question was, what are we doing within the Encore ecosystem that's not specific to a show and sort of just encompasses a user's identity and history? One thing we are working on right now is an achievement system that does supersede an individual show, and it's on a global basis, like, okay, how many shows have you seen? How many claps have you spent? How many backstage passes have you gotten? But we're also looking at it as an artist-specific thing. It's like, oh, hey, you are Cuddy's #1 fan, and that's, for all the big fan groups, that's sort of like a badge of honor.
Yes.
The question was, do we see applications beyond live music, other forms of live entertainment? Absolutely. I think the closest thing to this would be stand-up comedy. It actually makes the audio setup way easier because they just have a mic, and that's super simple, and it's vertical already because they're standing up. So that makes life a lot easier.
And I would say from the Agora perspective, I mean, absolutely. First of all, I would say any unscripted content is really a natural pairing, in part because there is a little bit of that unpredictability, in part because there is a little bit of, hey, there's an immediacy to it. Number two, I mean, I would say sports is also another really low-hanging fruit. You're talking about a very highly engaged audience. You're talking about a lot of innovation. I mean, everything from what could you do with data overlay in real time, right? Today you think about like the sportscaster on the evening news. He's able to go into his virtual field and draw and pull up stats and things. Well, what if each one of us was enabled to do that and share that with our buddies, or share that in a sports betting experience, right? Or for that matter, let's talk about sports betting for a moment. There's ways to do it today. Obviously, we can support the fundamental audio-video path and the data channel, but what if you could also offer a social experience on top of that? And so it's not just about you seeing other people that are doing the bets and it creates that immediacy, which I guess is especially appropriate to talk about here in Vegas, but also, what if I could pay for a VIP membership and that gets me access to somebody that has real insights into the thing I'm gambling on, or is a gambling expert, or an influencer who makes correct predictions on a game or whatever. So yeah, I would say it's not a question of are there more use cases that this applies to. I think it's really a question of how many more have we not even conceived of yet. And that's really one of the main things I'm here for, trying to figure out what those new experiences might look like. I think we might have time for one more real quick question. Yes, you, please.
Got it. So the question was about selling artist merch, concert merch within Encore. So it's really interesting you say that. We've already done a few giveaways, like, hey, if you're one of the top 10, you get the touring t-shirt, the concert t-shirt. But we do see a world where every artist profile has a little store, and they can post T-shirts and other merch, and you can buy it all with claps. So absolutely, that's a big revenue stream for artists.
And from the Agora perspective, and to round out the conversation, which is of course about generating new forms of monetization in an entertainment experience. I mean, what you're asking, that's exactly the right way to think about this. How do we go beyond just elongating the impression for more advertising surface? And how do we actually open up new forms of monetization as part of the entertainment experience? And with that, I want to thank you all for your time and attention today. On behalf of Yev and myself, I hope you all have a great NAB show. Thank you.
Thank you.